All right, so I'm just watching the news the other day, and I'm not really paying attention. So I'm watching this guy, Melber, whatever the hell his name is. And as he's interviewing this guest, his eyes kept doing the shifty thing. And then he kind of like started shuffling his papers and like fake organizing his papers while the other guy's talking. Oh, shit. That looks like the consume less. That's what I do. It's like when somebody's talking, I'm I can't fucking listen. And so it's like one of these anecdotes, a clustering that I see people with consume last. They'll have the shifty eyes. And as you see that in me, I've gotten somewhat not as bad over the years, but it's still like, God, it's just like I'm on fire on the inside. I can't stop shifting around. I do think he is the same fucking exact type as me. Now, I would say on the spectrum of all the crazy guys that are my same fucking type, I'd say he'd be on the not as psycho side, right? Hopefully I'm in the middle in there somewhere, right? And I got a clip here with Cohen, the other guy who's my type, who is a crazy fucking psycho idiot. And so it's kind of funny to watch those two idiots talk to each other. But anyways, I wanted to talk about or give a breakdown of what the hell the shifty eyes are doing or what the consume last eyes are doing, because I'll see it in my type and other people that are consume last as well. And so it's like with the consume last, it's like it's a double activated blast, right? And the sleep is going to be thrown in there as well. So it's like you got super sleep blast, you got super OIs going on. And so it's like every time I'm hearing something, I have to like hold on to those Tetris pieces and be like, oh, I got to put that somewhere. And so if you're bringing me in Tetris pieces that I don't have a little log thing for, I just throw them out. And so I'm just kind of waiting for stuff I already know and go, okay, yeah, that goes here. So I'm building up the OI right now, right? Because saviors are like, we're doing this right fucking now. Demons are, I'm doing it later. So for the consume last, it's like, we're organizing right now. You're like, hey, stop. You're on the fucking TV. You're just like, would you take in for a minute? No, I'm not going to take in. I'm going to organize that shit right now. And so the eyes will start moving around. I don't know if it's like more of the audios or whatever, because we're not, my types, the audios or whatever, we're not looking. It looks like Aries looking. It looks like I'm looking. I'm not looking at a damn thing. I can't visualize anything anymore. I used to when I was a kid. I can't see fucking shit. So it's more of just a kinesthetic. I'm just kind of feeling it out. Like, yeah, that's a heavy point. That goes here. That's a light point. That can go on the top, right? So it's kind of doing it like that. So it becomes very distracting for people on the other side. All right, so let's load that story. Now watch Eric.
I don't have the experience into his financials. I was around the office, obviously, for 6 years or so. What I would say is it was very strange to me that she didn't seek injunctive relief on this. You know, she could have brought the civil suit and said he's no longer allowed to, or temporarily, try to postpone him from doing any business. In terms of what she said about that
Stop
pattern.
shuffling your papers.
Look, a week ago, I've been with Donald when he's told me that he's worth $4 billion. He has paid back those loans. And the idea that she had to bring this, less than 90 days from the election, it doesn't necessarily show that she was working on a fair ground, at least to people like me. But with that said, did he inflate assets? I have no firsthand knowledge, but I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised. A couple things. The timing is a product of also many of the delays.
Don't give me a fucking blaster lesson. Like, just listen to the damn guy. I was listening to myself on the phone the other day. Everything I say is a blaster lesson, but I can't turn it off. Like, we go to have breakfast or I'm on a fucking phone call, like I'm still giving fucking lessons. And like, that's exactly what Ari's doing. Like the guy is coming, he's like, hey, I got some information on Trump or whatever the fuck they're talking about. I don't even listen to what they're fucking talking about. I'm just watching their faces. And then Ari's like, he's not like, hey, that's interesting. That's new. It's just like, well, let me sort that back to you. Let me interrupt and then blast it back to you. And then the guy's just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. What the fuck was the point of that?
Timing is a product of also many of the delays that were on the Trump org side. He had to be held in civil contempt, as you know, to even go in and then plead the fifth. So while I think it's a fair question to raise anytime you have a high priority, high profile case like this, whether the timing is somehow being misused, if they could show evidence of that, that would be bad. As for the inflation of assets, I mean, it's very interesting to hear you say that. Your experience, again, we're not talking about only the Trump org, but your experience was even on big numbers you might remember, like are you worth 8B or 10B, you're saying he would just move around.
Yes, he would move around.
That's just what he said. That's what he said. Okay, so what the hell is the consume last doing? It's like the consume last, especially the audio, like can't learn unless we say it back out loud, right? So everybody has blast. Like there's the age-old thing of like, you don't really learn something until you teach it, right? Like that's a real thing that people have been saying for 100 years. And that's so true. And it's like the consume last just have that cranked all the way up. It's like they're just unable to learn unless they blast it out, right? And so it's like, Ari is like, I can't process what you're saying unless I'm taking it in, moving in my blocks, and then hearing myself say it back out loud again. So here's these two psychos. Look at this guy's fucking jacket. Here's fucking consume last. Like this is gonna be me in fucking how many? Only like 10 more years. I'm gonna have this hair and that fucking jacket that I stole from the Goodwill. So that's what I'm saying. Like Ari's a little bit better as far as the fucking nut jobs in my type. Now watch this guy. You're gonna hear NF cranked all the way up, the same old story, et cetera, et cetera.
It actually saddens me because it's so ridiculous. I mean, he was always odd and he was always different. He was an enigma. But this is just nuts. And there's no way to describe. I'm thinking it, therefore it is. You know who has that sort of ideology? A king, a monarch, a dictator, a supreme leader. I thought it, therefore I can do it. It almost reminds me of like in the Ten Commandments. Remember Ramses? So it has been said, so it shall be done. He's able to declassify things with his mind. It's truly an amazing thing. I personally think that there's something wrong.
Well, shout out to the Ramses reference.
Yes.
Sunday school, perhaps.
That's correct.
It's so funny to see people of the same type interact with each other. In this case, he's like, following all of your analogies, following all of your patterns. Yep, really good. So real quick, let me throw you some ST actual usable shit here. What the OIs are doing, especially like a feminine OI, right? A feminine NI is going to be so fucking movable. It's going to be the most non-OI, right? So what he's doing, though, is that Ari, even though he's on the news, right? Because the news is new. Ari, whatever, has found a way somehow to make them all a small number of categories in his mind. Darren Brown talks about this by having kind of like a mind mansion, right? So he's got like categories. There's probably no more than 8. Like he has like whatever it may be, politics, assholes, inflation, the war, etc. Right? So he has subjective, personal categories that he's kind of divided the world up into, right? And so he just goes in, he builds up the rooms. Now the rooms might be more of like a visual way if you're feminine, sensory or whatever. But he's got kind of these different categories. And you see Darren Brown and Elon Musk doing this. I think Elon Musk is doing it way better than any OI I've seen. Well, he's also a double observer OI. He's still like putting the world in categories. Got Mars, got the tunnels, got the cars, got PayPal. So he only has about, less than 8 categories. So every time you talk about something to an OI, they're just like, oh, that's one of my 8. And it's probably less than 8. Like they're trying to get it down to 4 or 2 even, right? That's what I'm always going for. Can I get this down to 2? So that actually gives the OIs a lot of calmness. Because when you see like Ari here, like he doesn't seem to be a guy who's a super drama queen. He doesn't seem to like, oh, you're going to see him freaking out at the airport. I mean, he probably will, but it's like, so I think what a lot of savior OIs are doing that are getting themselves unstuck is they're finding a way to combine the OE and the OI. We saw Tulam, the ICJ guy, talking about that. His plan was, I'm going to accept this chaos. I have a category for that.